Stitch this and tell me the space fact that just makes your brain go...
I was just a guest on the Historical AF podcast to talk about eerie space facts, and I learned about a couple of things that are just freaking me out. The first is the Fermi paradox. I'd heard of this before, but hadn't looked too closely at it. In 1950, physicist Enrico Fermi was at lunch with his colleagues one day and famously exclaimed, "Where is everybody?" in reference to the lack of evidence of other intelligent life in the universe. Given the age and vastness of our universe, it's probable that there are other advanced civilizations out there. Possibly many of them, and possibly ones that are much more advanced than us, so why haven't we heard from them? We could just be too far away. We might also be looking for the wrong type of signal. Radio has been around for about 100 years and has already become a less prevalent form of communication on Earth, so maybe the aliens closest to us just aren't broadcasting radio signals anymore, or they never started. Additionally, there's the very unsettling possibility that we're completely alone in the universe. Another possibility is the dark forest hypothesis, which I talk about in part 2, out now. The dark forest hypothesis is a possible explanation for the Fermi paradox. It was first proposed in the science fiction novel of the same name. The central idea of this hypothesis is that there are other intelligent civilizations out there in our universe, but that they're purposely staying quiet for fear of others that might destroy them. Basically, the argument is that some civilizations might take the shoot first, ask questions later approach, believing that the safer option is to destroy other life forms before they can destroy you. A famous quote from the book reads, "The universe is a dark forest. Every civilization is an armed hunter stalking through the trees like a ghost, gently pushing aside branches that block the path and trying to tread without sound. The hunter has to be careful because everywhere in the forest are stealthy hunters like him. In this forest, hell is other people, an eternal threat that any life that exposes its own existence will be swiftly wiped out. This is the picture of cosmic civilization. It's the explanation for the Fermi paradox." Too scary. So, it's a little tough to explain why the idea of us being alone in the universe freaks me out more than there being other intelligent life out there. I think a lot of it is just human nature, wanting to be part of a group, not wanting to be lonely, so the idea that we're this tiny blue planet floating around in this enormous universe and we're the only ones out there is just sort of freaky. There's a great quote from Carl Sagan's Pale Blue Dot speech that really encompasses a lot of my feelings about this idea. In this speech, he said, "Our planet is a lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark. In our obscurity, in all this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves. The Earth is the only world known so far to harbor life. There is nowhere else, at least in the near future, to which our species could migrate. Visit, yes, settle, not yet. Like it or not, for the moment, the Earth is where we make our stand." I want to address an oversimplification in my first Fermi paradox video. In that video, I said that radio was becoming a less prevalent form of communication when in reality we still use radio waves all the time. What's becoming less prevalent is radio waves escaping into space. Transmitters and receivers have gotten more efficient, and we have satellites bouncing signals back down towards Earth. Of course, we do have some reduction in use, given that internet and television signals are pushed out to homes via fiber optic cables more and more these days. The important take-home is that as radio and other communication technology advances, our planet goes more and more radio silent in terms of stray radio signals escaping into space. I really appreciate everyone who asked about it and provided constructive criticism. I try really hard to get all of my facts right, but it helps to have a friendly assist sometimes, and sometimes it's just hard to paraphrase everything into a 60-second video. I'm so glad that you guys are here and that we're all learning together. There are dozens of possible explanations for the Fermi paradox. As I pointed out in part 1, a simple answer could just be that everyone else is too far away. I wanted to put this into perspective a bit, though. Excluding our own sun, the closest star, Proxima Centauri, is 4 light-years away. It would take even our fastest spaceships 70,000 years to get there. If we started that journey, there's a chance that we would end up overtaking those ships with faster ones sometime in the future before they could even reach their destination. Then there's radio communication. If radio waves are going to be our main way to transmit and receive alien messages, well, ours haven't made it very far yet. This image shows the distance our own radio waves have traveled relative to the size of the Milky Way. Zooming into the square, that tiny blue dot has a diameter of just over 200 light-years. Even more disconcerting might be that the first television broadcast signal strong enough to penetrate the ionosphere and escape into space was of Hitler opening the 1936 Olympic Games. Let's talk about another explanation for the Fermi paradox, because apparently you guys are intent on sending me into an existential dread spiral this week. The Great Filter Hypothesis suggests that as interstellar intelligent life develops, meaning life that can travel to and even colonize other star systems, it must take many critical steps, with at least one of these being highly improbable and/or difficult to clear, a bottleneck, if you will. It could be something as early as the process of abiogenesis itself, or it could be something more sinister like the need to develop advanced technology without destroying your civilization with it in the process. It could also be the avoidance of a global catastrophe like a giant asteroid impact. In the context of the Fermi paradox, we might not be hearing from aliens because not many potential civilizations make it past the Great Filter. A comforting thought could be that we've already passed it, but then again, what if we haven't? Let's talk about the zoo hypothesis. This is one of the more friendly solutions to the Fermi paradox. The zoo hypothesis was first proposed in 1973 by John Ball and suggests that while advanced alien civilizations exist and know about us, they've agreed to a hands-off policy when it comes to Earth and other developing planets with respect to interstellar travel and communication. It's actually pretty similar to Star Trek's Prime Directive, and it's not anything nefarious. Basically, aliens are just respecting our right to pursue our own destiny as a planet. A particularly cool thing that's come out of this idea is an organization called METI International. METI stands for Messaging Extraterrestrial Intelligence, and they've been beaming radio signals to nearby star systems in the hopes that someone will answer. Their logic is, if an animal started talking to you at the zoo, wouldn't you respond? Of course, a flaw with this hypothesis is that it's a bit self-centered. It suggests that we're somehow important enough for societies perhaps millions or billions of years more advanced to have official policies about dealing with us. I finally have my voice mostly back, so it's time to jump back into Fermi's paradox, and to wrap it up, we are going down a real rabbit hole. In the 40s, this guy did the math on what it would take for a machine that could reproduce itself endlessly. From this, the idea of von Neumann probes, or machines, was born. Scientists proposed that a smart, more efficient way to explore the universe, spread life, terraform, or intervene on other planets would be to produce self-replicating probes that could be sent out in all directions at once. These probes would be equipped with the technology, AI, tools, what have you, to obtain the materials to produce copies of themselves, and the copies would make copies, and in a relatively short amount of time, you could explore your whole galaxy. The idea is that more advanced alien civilizations would have started making these to explore ours. But we have no evidence of these, so we're back at Fermi's paradox. This one seems very far-fetched to me, but it does come up in actual scientific discourse. For example, when scientists were trying to figure out what Oumuamua was, it was proposed that it could be an interstellar probe.